And with that in mind, what's in your wallet?
Welcome back to the Ed Show. Relative calm in the town of Ferguson, Missouri today is a stark contrast to the events over the past few days. 18-year-old Michael Brown's death after being shot by police has brought the issue of over-policing in America front and center. Thursday, Congressman Steve Cohen, John Conyers, and Robert Scott demanded action. In a letter to the Judiciary Committee, the congressman wrote, "The use of overwhelming force by police against unarmed citizens requires our urgent attention. It is imperative the committee convene to examine these issues as soon as possible." There's no doubt action needs to be taken. The tragedy of an unarmed teen being shot by police escalated into violence in the street. Rather than police being there to protect and serve, they've become armed for combat. Police in Ferguson were armed with military-style assault rifles and armored vehicles. These police don't resemble anyone's typical view of a police officer. Officers in Ferguson look like they are straight off the battlefield in Afghanistan. Citizens of Ferguson are taking notice.
I didn't go to Iraq to defend Iraqis, to come home and watch my neighbors get brutalized. Responding with tanks and snipers to a peaceful protest, ridiculous. And we are showing solidarity. There should be no tanks on U.S. streets. It's absurd.
These three senior Democrats on the House Judiciary Committee want to hold hearings to examine the handling of the violence that erupted in Ferguson. Congressman Steve Cohen of Tennessee joins me now. Congressman, what response have you gotten so far to your call for a hearing on the violence?
Well, we haven't gotten a response. We sent our request to the Judiciary Chairman, Bob Goodlatte, and I'm not sure that he's available at the present time, but I hope that we will have a hearing. I just think it's important that we have hearings and determine what the necessity is of military-type equipment being in the hands of local police.
Do you see this trending upward, that is, this trend toward over-policing? Is it something that's getting worse and on a worse trajectory?
Well, it appears to, and you know, you never saw this type of display before, unless you were looking at something in the Ukraine or maybe 20-some-odd years ago at Tiananmen Square and the way the Chinese dealt with unrest. You don't see it in America, and there's not a need for armored cars and MK-47s and camouflage and all this hoopla that put people in a certain state of mind that could have evolved into an even more serious situation than was already on the scene.
Sure.
I think the fact that the Missouri officials brought in the National Guard and things have calmed down. The police exacerbated the problem, and bringing the force that they brought didn't soothe matters, they worsened matters. Yeah,
it was exacerbatory to be sure. Senator Claire McCaskill is saying it's time to reconsider tactics.
After 9/11, in sometimes a knee-jerk fashion, we began equipping police departments with all kinds of tools that had not been typical of policing in this country. And maybe it's time to look at all of that and make a determination as to how effective is a show of what is military force.
Do you agree with Senator McCaskill?
Well, I think we have to re-examine it. I mean, I can understand the need possibly if there's a terrorist threat, and if there could be a terrorist threat with people with high cartridge ammunition and weaponry, where they might need to respond with some type of something like that, although the National Guard would be called out, but not against our own citizens, and not against our own citizens when there is civil unrest, civil protest. And even if it got to the point that it did where they were breaking some glass, that's no reason to come with the amount of force and the appearance that was brought by the police in Ferguson.
Thursday, Congressman John Lewis called for President Obama to federalize the Missouri National Guard to take control of the streets. What would that kind of action do?
Well, I think what the Missouri authorities did was sufficient to calm the situation. I think that would have done it as well. But I think just shifting the Ferguson police out with their paramilitary-style equipment and bringing in, I believe that the governor brought in the National Guard or the state troopers. But whoever he brought in calmed the situation. It was effectively dealt with by the local authorities.
Finally, should there be more accountability for police behavior?
Oh, no question about it. There have been killings, particularly of African-American males, throughout this country. There was one in New York. apparently an unarmed man, a man in Los Angeles, again apparently unarmed, just as the young man was in Ferguson, Missouri. There's a pattern, and the pattern is disturbing. And the pattern is one of not looking at young African Americans and African American males as being people that should get due process and get respect and resort to deadly force and not use it on just impulse.
Representative Steve Cohen, thanks for joining us tonight.
You're welcome, Michael.
Coming up, Rand Paul weighs in on the Mike Brown tragedy.